Why were you being held against your will by the French government? Did you ever, in the first 4 days, did they make it clear to you?
So I understood that they were worried about the alleged lack of response from Telegram towards the judicial requests coming from France, which turned out to be not true, because we've never received a single legally binding legal request coming from France. So I was even more confused. And I asked the French policeman, why haven't you been following the European law and serving your legal requests in the way prescribed by this law, right? It's defined by the Digital Services Act, and it's there. You can Google the process. You can read the privacy policy of Telegram. It's easily accessible on the website. So why didn't you do it? And they didn't answer, but thanks God they started to do it. And then they started to receive responses helping them to identify criminal suspects, meaning we would disclose IP address and phone number of people who were suspects in criminal investigations when we received court orders signed by a judge.
Right.
And this was something that we had in place since a year ago before that. So it's not something that the French have forced us to do. It's something that we already had in place. We had a company in Belgium processing these requests. Other countries have successfully been using this process.
Right.
But somehow the French have ignored it completely. And this is why, I was very surprised. Why haven't you been doing this? Why? But this is the process.
And to be clear, I think this is like standard for social media companies. A company, whether it's Facebook or X or Snapchat or any of them, get a court order from a country in which they have users, and the court order says, we have reason to believe this person's a criminal. Can we have the IP address? I think they all comply with that, correct?
Yes. Well, it's the DSA law. If you don't comply with it, you can be fined, you can be banned. Well, right. It's a question whether you want to continue providing your service in the European Union, but it only concerns the identification data, meaning IP address, and in some cases, phone number of the suspect. It has nothing to do with, for example, private messages of a person or other kinds of activity, which is much more protected and much more private. Even if we wanted to, we wouldn't be able to disclose this information.
Right.
But it's not required by the law.
Yes, but what you're describing is like the state of play across Europe anyway for all the companies.
Exactly.
Okay. So, but because this is like a normal thing that's already its process that everyone recognizes and it's been ongoing, you must be very confused as to why you're being held in this jail that they're not calling a jail. Were you confused? Like, were you worried?
It was very hard to understand.
I stepped off an airplane and a bunch of cops showed up, took my phone away and threw me in the back of a car and took me to a cell, even though they pretended it was not a jail, but wouldn't let me out and lock the door for 4 days without being able to contact my family. I'd be concerned. Were you concerned?
That was very surprising. I was shocked.
You're very diplomatic.
At first I thought there was some mistake. They got the wrong guy.
Yeah.
I thought they read the list of charges. They have nothing to do with these crimes, like organized crimes, selling drugs, all those things. Like, what do I have to do with that? Then I realized it's serious because they're not letting me out. Like they keep me there in this cell.
Okay, but just for perspective, so you've got 1 billion users. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. You started the company, you own the company. It's a huge company. It's one of the biggest social media companies in the world. And so there's a process. So if they think that Telegram is doing something wrong, they send letters to your general counsel or maybe get your phone number, which I'm sure they could pretty easily get. French intelligence, I'm sure, has everybody's phone number, and just call you and tell you. I've never heard of a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company getting arrested at the airport on grounds like this.
Well, you're very right. It never happened before.
It's like completely
it's unprecedented.
Outrageous.
It's unprecedented, right? Never happened. So it's something that I think was very unnecessary. Because on top of what you just described, I'm also a French citizen.
Everybody wants to feel secure at home. It's your castle. There's nothing like going to sleep with a complete sense of safety. That's why you sleep soundly. That's why we cannot speak highly enough of Simply Safe. Most security systems take action only after someone breaks into your house. That's a little late. SimpliSafe's new ActiveGuard outdoor protection feature helps stop break-ins before they occur, and that gives you peace of mind, and it means you won't have to sleep with a baseball bat or a loaded handgun on your bedside, though you might want to anyway. Here's how it works. If something suspicious happens outside your property, cameras and live monitoring agents will detect it. They'll speak to the intruder, turn on spotlights, and can call the police if necessary. It's no surprise that CNET named SimpliSafe the best home security system of 2025. Over 4 million Americans trust it because it's preemptive. Monitoring plans start around $1 per day. There are no hidden fees, 60-day money-back guarantee. Visit simplysafe.com/Tucker to get 50% off a new system with a professional monitoring plan and your first month free. That's SimpliSafe, SimpliSafe.com/Tucker. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
So
how did you wind up, because you're not from France originally?
Yeah, I'm not from France originally, but I have certain ties to France, and I was awarded, so to say, this citizenship for using a specific process, which took several years, but I didn't cut any corners. Like I had to pass the French exam test, like if I had to do certain things that you normally do.
Because you wanted to be a French citizen.
I love the country. It's a great country. It's a great culture. Of course, these events are alarming, and that's why I think it makes sense to speak about them. And the most interesting part of it is that every French citizen has his or her personal home address in the passport. So the authorities of France know very well how to reach out to this person. Like he's there or she's there. And on top of that, the consulate of France is located in the same building as the telegram office in Dubai. So
the same building.
The same building. Like you remember?
I've been to the building.
You've been
it's
to
not
the
a huge building, by the way.
Not really, and it's just 2 floors below.
You're 2 floors from the French consulate?
We're 2 floors from the French consulate, and I was a frequent visitor to the consulate. And whenever any French agency, authority, or like representative of France, of the government, wanted to see me, they had no issue whatsoever arranging such meetings. And these meetings took place. I was happy just to go 2 floors below my office and have a conversation or invite them to our office. So it's very, very strange what happened, because it could have been resolved by different means, if you think about it.
Obviously, they went way out of their way to humiliate you, they announced that they arrested you. I mean, you were not obviously scanning Google for news stories about yourself because you couldn't.
I couldn't.
But the rest of us were. And they announced, we've arrested Pavel Durov, and arms sales or drug sales or kiddie porn, or I mean, who knows, like horrible. It's like, what? So they were trying to terrify you and humiliate you, obviously.
This is something that was also very unusual. So what my lawyers told me here in France, that normally the prosecutor's office is not that public. They are not issuing press statements every day, and they're not commenting on their investigations, which was not the case with me, where they were very active. They were trying to.
Have you gone back? So you were, of course, you were locked up and you couldn't read the coverage, but have you gone back and read it for those 4 days when you were being held?
Well, when I was in police custody, I heard from one of the policemen. He told me every newspaper in the world is covering this and is mentioning you. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, a lot of people are supportive, but I asked him, what do newspapers write about this case? And he told me everything but truth. And I freaked out at that moment, like, everything but truth? Seriously? And when I went this 4 days ended, and I was...
Can I just ask, like, what was your family doing? And you've got children and parents, and like, what were...
Well, to be honest, this is the hardest part, because I'm pretty stress resilient, so I can take care of myself. But being there, locked there, thinking about what's going on with my mom, you know, she's very ill, she's very elderly, she was very worried, as I learned after. what's going on with my kids, and this is something that gets to you. And
you couldn't contact them.
no, there's no way, because you don't have access to any device, or you can't even read a newspaper.
What did they think was going on?
They were very surprised and very confused and very worried.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.